Dobré odpoledne.
Good afternoon. Welcome at camp, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to participate, please be seated. There are still some free seats here, and we are about to start. So once again, welcome at camp. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for being interested in the Nový Hlavák project. Yesterday we announced the winning design. So we had the opportunity to see the future of the main station, not only the terminal hall, but also the Vrchlický park, which you know as Sherwood. And one of the projects involved in the competition was also the tram line, or the solution of the tram line, and the connection of the tram through the Vrchlického park. And the chosen route is the best one in terms of the potential for the improvement of the surroundings and also for other reasons. We are talking about heavily used place, and the tram route will help accelerate the changes, and there will be new relaxational areas and all of that. You're going to see that in the presentation. If you were here yesterday, you saw a brief version of the presentation. Today you're going to hear more details. You will see some sketches and drawings, and if you have questions, and I'm sure you have some questions, you will have the opportunity to ask. And you can ask in Czech, because we have simultaneous translation ensured, and after the presentation there will be a panel discussion, and that will be a chance for you to ask your questions. Now, if you are joining us from your home, you can use slido.com for asking your questions. The same applies to you, even if you are sitting here in the hall and you prefer to ask questions through Slido, please go ahead. We will have the representatives of the winning team, Henning Larsen and Rambol, and also representatives of the capital city of Prague, the IPR, the committee, and some experts, and also the Prague Transit Company. So hopefully we are set to answer all of your questions. Petr Holhanzel is the director of is a representative of the railroad administration. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. By way of introduction, I would like to tell you something about how we perceive the location and the proposed change, and also the results of the competition. I would like to say at first, why did we embark on this competition? For us, this is an iconic train station, the most important train station in the Czech Republic. We are therefore trying to treat it with most attention. We perceive its historical value. We were reconstructing some of its parts, the historical steel structure over the track yard. Then we are completing the reconstruction of the Fanta building. This Saturday there will be inauguration of the historical halls of the Fanta building. We did all of that in cooperation with heritage officers. Now it's the time to look at the new terminal hall and to treat it adequately. We are perceiving this location not only from the perspective of the railroad, but also from the perspective, from other perspectives. We were very happy to cooperate with the capital city of Prague and the IPR and the Prague Transit Company, and to address this location as one whole. There is a very simple reason for that. The travelers, people from Prague or from elsewhere, who will be there every day, also will perceive this place as one whole. They really don't care what belongs to whom. And therefore I'm very happy we had this opportunity, and we are talking about 3 years of hard work, which culminated yesterday in the presentation of the winning proposal. So why did we embark on this project? This is the new terminal hall as it is today. it is based on a design from 1957. For that time, it was actually a wonderful building. It was also a result of an architectural competition, and I believe that it really fulfilled its function well. On the other hand, today, we need to look further ahead. 1957 was a year when nobody thought about high-speed train connecting Prague and the rest of the Republic with Europe. Nobody at that time could foresee the boom in railroad transport, in suburban and long-distance travel. And today we have to respond to these changes if we want that this station is still the main station. We are talking about many people coming here for work, and there are tourists coming, and also for studies. And we have to respond to these changes. For the future, we presume there will be high-speed train route, which is now being designed on a massive scale. We are hoping to start building them in a couple of years' time. It's a phenomenon that has been around in Europe for some time already. We are a bit late. In Poland, these kinds of projects are designed on a massive scale too. And if we want to be in Europe, and if Prague is to remain in the network of European capitals, we have to embark on high-speed rail transport. On top of that, we have a huge growth in suburban and long-distance railroad transport. Then another upcoming project, that's the Metro D line, then the new tram line, and last but not least, there's a project which is already about to start with the implementation. That's the connection of Kladno and the Prague airport. That's another project which will bring even more people to trains. We believe in a strong synergy of these two train stations, talking about the main train station and the Masarykovo station. There are a few steps apart, and if you provide transit to the airport, then people coming to the train station can very easily just go to the Masaryk station and from there go to the airport. So this will be very useful. And all these things have to be taken into consideration, and we have to start thinking already now about how to serve all of these travelers, how to ensure smooth transition from the tram to the bus and on to the rest of Prague. And the nowadays capacity of the building is not sufficient for all of that. This is why we had to start an architectural competition so that we can have relevant changes which will be able to accommodate these growing numbers of people. Otherwise, we would just block Prague. The main station would simply be overcrowded. It would be a bottleneck, actually, and there would be many problems. The trains would not be able to go as far as to the train station, and that would not be good. If you look elsewhere, or especially to Western Europe, but also to Eastern Europe, you can see that each capital is preparing similar projects. They are reconstructing their main stations. Many of them actually are already completed, such as Berlin, Vienna, or Rotterdam, or London, to name just a few. And there's a strong support for public transportation, which is environmentally friendly. And we are joining in the bandwagon, simply doing the same. Here you see the most important slide, the most important figure. Nowadays, there are 90,000 people every day at the train station. That's the maximum capacity of the facility today. As we know, because we are there on a daily basis, it is hard to navigate. It's hard to navigate for locals and for tourists as well. The transition links are not very clear. There was the Grande Stazione company. Many people actually say, why are you going to reconstruct it? The Grande Stazione already did their job. But actually the only thing they did is that they were putting the commercial units there. They tried to maximize commerce, but they were not addressing the terminal hall as such. The reconstruction is already outdated. There is a strong need for renovation, and Grande Stazione did not address the problem of the insufficient capacity. How to make it possible, not for 90,000, but for 200,000 people to be there every day? So that was the main reason why we had to start looking for a solution, and we wanted a transparent and fair solution, which is why we chose the competition dialogue, which made it possible to approach the best architectural studios globally so that we obtain a high quality architecture. Of course, it is not easy elsewhere abroad. The projects always, you know, there are many emotions, many reactions to that. When you look also elsewhere, you see that really the railroad stations are part of the cities, and people of these big cities are proud. If you look at Austria or Germany, frequently the main station is really the landmark. And that's why it's worth focusing on this place. So now I would pass the floor to my colleague Jakub Hendrich, who is going to talk about the architectural competition.
Good afternoon. Like Peter Hofhansel, he talked about the current state of the terminal hall and how important it is to change it, to prepare it for the future. Not just about the capacity, but also about the function of the organism of a railway station, and also the services that should be offered. And there should also be a park. One should walk through a park. For a long term, we already look for a topic and how to define the park, and regarding how it's going to be used, what activities there should be, what structure it should have, and also how the park changed and developed in the past. There have been very big influences, and the biggest change has been done with was connected to the construction of the terminal hall. Now it's very hard to keep the park in a certain structure. There are many people walking through the park, many visitors, travelers, etc. But it does not offer any benefit for the people around there. There are no activities, but there's also no biodiversity. There are no ecosystemical services. When we prepared for the dialogue, we talked to people who use the park, who walk there, and we wanted to hear from them how they use the park or how they would like to use it. And that was a very important feedback, because we could see that there is a lot of potential in that park, because there are many users who would like to actually use that park, but it does not fulfill the benefits or that they would expect. A similar topic is are the tram tracks, which also means the train station to other connections of public transportations, excluding the Metro C line. The main station only has one metro line as of now, and that's quite a big deficit. And there used to be a tram track right at the railway station. It has been removed, and now we are looking for possibilities on how to integrate the tram tracks into the railway station, which should be, and even with the Ministry of Culture and with the ground plan or land use plan, it was also a topic how it should be integrated. And this was also one of the basic and important conditions that the tram tracks should be in there. It's also part of that land use plan, but it has to be done in coordination with a solution of how to create that park. I touched upon this topic. There are areas in the park that cannot be defined. They don't have a concrete function. They're not being used. It's maybe just used for the parking of filmmaking people, for example. So I don't think this is something very useful for a location in the city center of Prague. And of course, it's also connected to how the park behaves, or what the relationship between the park and the hall is, and how these two parts communicate with each other and how they are connected to each other. And now we should look at the process, what actually the task of the competitive dialogue was, what actually this competitive dialogue was, how it was structured, what task they received. And also we will later see how the respective teams reacted, and then we will see the winner, actually the winning design or draft. There have been 3 sides who actually opened it. It has been entered by the Prague Public Transportation, the City of Prague, and Správa železnic. The City of Prague is responsible for the park and the streets around. The Prague Public Transportation Organization is responsible for the tram tracks in Bozanova Street and how this network should be connected to the city. And of course, Správa železnic is responsible for the terminal hall. Here on the picture you can see that the terminal hall is not just what we see from the park, but it's a huge building that is also connected and somehow separated through the magistral highway. So the solution and the coordination will not be easy. From the early days, we knew that it's going to be difficult, and that's also why we knew that it would be difficult to be successful to really change the whole area. We had a robust system where upstairs we had some structures. So there was IPR, the city, who was responsible for the project, but at the same time, we also had to discuss who's managing the whole dialogue. We also had legal support. We received support from other parties. It was either the public, their participation, it was some parts of the city or heritage offices, and of course there has been the jury, the committee. And altogether this created the process of this competitive dialogue, and we expect that this organism is going to live longer and continue. The committee, the jury, is very important, is one of the most important parts of the dialogue. They do not only choose the respective teams and their solutions, but especially they communicate with the teams. They give feedbacks, they comment on it. And there was an independent part. There were architects, sociologists, urbanists, historians focused on architecture, and then there were also representatives of the institutions, or also experts on public space or on transportation. Then the whole commission had experts of 68 people who were experts on other topics that were involved. They helped to define the respective comments in the respective phases. So the competitive dialogue had a timeline that was limited, that was one thing, but the whole thinking process about the area, the change and development and its realization started already in 2013. Back then, representatives of the city of Prague decided on a change of the plan regarding the relations to the tram tracks in that area, especially through Wenceslas Square, which would be one direction, but also regarding the main station. So the competitive dialogue has been open in summer 2022, in June. And yesterday we heard the result, and if everything goes well, we will start to build in 2028. The competitive dialogue has a number of phases. We had 4 phases. Looking back, I think it was good because we did not only work on the task, but it was also about the addition of documents and specialization. But step by step, we could also reduce the number of participants. And this helped us to work with the individual designs and comment on them and proposals, and to find best solutions for the final designs. At the beginning, we had 24 teams. They handed in methods of how they would explain, and they tried to defend it with their references and what they describe, and how they could realize it. And it's also important to mention that in the team there had to be 3 experts. That means an architect and landscape architect and a transportation engineer. Regarding the concept phase, I will have to go one step back. From the 24 teams, there were 5 teams that could continue to the next step, that they worked out their concepts, that the basic a way of how to solve that solution. And from the 5 teams, we chose 3 teams that created a final concept and a detailed concept, and that's what then they had it in. How was it structured? What did the teams get? What was at their disposal? There was some documentation. There was some historical research of the hall, the park, participation of the public that consisted of different phases and focused on different parts and groups. But then also some technical documentation. For example, that also the number of people walking there or cyclists have been calculated. Nowadays, or now, we continue with the preparation of other projects regarding around the area of Prague main station that are already being put into practice. It's, for example, Masaryk railway station, or also changes on the upper part of Wenceslas Square. And also the area of the new main station of New Hlavák is one part of that puzzle, so to say, that should be put together, that is creating a whole picture of that area. And also one part is also involved with the magistral, with the road, because the magistral rail highway should be connected to the other projects. And also the teams put it into practice to these plans. Some of these projects have not been realized, but some of the projects have already been realized or will be realized. So it's not about the current state, but how it's supposed to look in the future. And then, what was their task? It was about 4 parts. It was the hall, the tram track, and how to solve the solution in the neighboring streets, especially about transportation. The respective topics where we had subtopics later on in the phase of the process, and we could see that this is just an example of a few topics that we can find in that area. But these were topics we expected from the competitors to find solutions for them. And there should also be an interconnection between these topics. And for me, one of the most important schemes, how this competitive dialogue was working, and also how to actually grade it and use the criteria, that was urbanism and architecture, landscape solutions, and transportation. Of course, below these are just headlines of other topics, and of course these topics are influencing each other. So if the quality works well, then it also might be stronger than some other solution, for example, architecture or urbanism. So this is an important part. And now I would like to ask Mr. Vrchlick to hand over the word, because he was the head of the committee or the jury. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As it has been said, my name is Vrchlick. I'm an architect, and I was the head of the committee. And I was in charge of 27 members of the jury. Well, there were just 11 of those who had voting rights. We could see that. And we had 68 experts at our disposal who were experts in the different areas. In the beginning, when we initiated the work, I really liked the synergy between the 3 institutions, and it would be great if from this synergy we could find a harmonic solution, a vision which is full of harmony. And I think that's all. We also succeeded in that. In the beginning, we received 24 concepts of philosophy, so to say. We chose 5 and we asked these 5 to really create a concept, a solution. And very early we could see the core of the problem that deserved a reaction. This was the situation of the railway station when it developed. It was a new area in the city. It was at the eastern part of the center. So just below Fantova Budova, the building, there was a lively street, there were taxis, trams, etc. Then you could walk, you could cross the street and be in a park. There was also a lake, etc. And then you could reach to Opletalova Street. It was one clear area with one identity, with a certain quality. As it has been said, between 73 and 79, a new building has been built which fulfilled different tasks. One of the tasks was to build a city rail highway. That was at that time very important, a decision on how to solve transport in Prague. And also now we have a highway with 4 tracks. And on that highway, is a parking lot that is connected to it. And one of the solutions was also that these interventions should be taken the way that they should not have an effect on the relationship between the building Fantova, Budova, and other parts. And that was successful because they tried to get it under earth. So they created this under earth area below the highway. They also built these glass towers that should create a certain visual contact and replace the towers that are on the front of a building. So that was a very important, decisive change in the area, and that is determining everything. So regarding the possibilities they had and what the society wanted, they solved it quite well. They produced an architecture that had a lot of quality, and of course we should respect it.
Then we have the externalities and specifically the interrupted links. And previously you had this well-defined public space, but now the contact was lost. The possibility, in fact, to walk across this place was lost too. It was not possible to go from one side to the other, and you were a victim of the, of this engineering labyrinth, and you had to go through an underpass and then through tunnels, etc. Simply, there was no longer this free space, and all of that just because of this highway and the parking deck. So, if you think about it, then you think, well, is it really possible that we still have it today? That you go from the train, you look up and see the Fanta building, and then again you have to go down and you have to go for dozens of meters before you reach sunlight, daylight. This is what many people, thousands of people, have to do every day. Or when you go from the Wenceslav Square and you see the Fantova building and you can't actually go there, you have to go underground and then only can you reach it. Or when you want to come from the Opletalova street, again, you don't even see the goal of your route because it's hidden somewhere below the parking deck. So this fact has been identified as the core of the problem by most of the participating teams. They each responded in their own way. One of the proposals actually decided that the parking place should be a vivid public space with markets and some other events. Even a kind of amphitheater was to be there, letting daylight enter the terminal hall and at the same time screening the highway traffic. And the life was to be brought to the roof. That was nice, but it did not address the fact that you can't cross through the area. Actually, it made it even more complicated, and it cemented the situation as it is today. Moreover, this semi-public space would be dependent on artificial, let's say, promotion of the events. Someone would have to organize these events, and it would not be for spontaneous events. Other team decided to make there a roof which would be slightly elevated, which would also let some daylight enter. There would be glass used in the roof, which would mean that again it would be much lighter inside the terminal hall, suddenly making it into a more pleasant place. But still you see a barrier between these places. You still did not obtain a permeable space. Another entry decided to add two new buildings from the south and from the north. So there were two add-ons, and the parking place was to be turned into a piazzetta with three parterres. One of them, it would be bordered by these two add-ons, and you would obtain a kind of piazza there, inside a piazza, we can say, and that was an interesting idea. But again, it is dependent on the activities which would have to be organized artificially. They would be dependent on somebody animating this place deliberately, and it would perhaps not be a part of a naturally vivid place, an urban place. As for the communication links, they did not change that much, and that is why this entry was not seen as very impressive. Another one, which was among the top three, did not dare to remove the parking deck physically, but just decided to change the function. They put a new identity to the place by adding new glass roofs, which was a free interpretation of the halls above the track yard. They created something like a winter garden, a huge greenhouse, which would go to the center of the former square. So basically, you would hide it everything under one greenhouse, which would be as a kind of orangery, with the possibility of organizing markets, seasonal activities. But it was really a greenhouse space. And then there's another proposal, which had a very radical approach. Let's simply remove the parking deck. Let's just do away with it, and we will just close it where we need it, where we need just the facility for the travelers, and otherwise let us go back to the original contours. In other words, the part where you need comfortably to get people to the metro, to the tram, would just be covered by one roof, which will be transparent, but otherwise you make it perfectly permeable. That actually is the winning design, which convinced majority of the jury. In terms of restoration of the original contours of the space, we found that this intervention is not only radical and revolutionary, but also very sensitive to history, to continuity of the space. You are removing part of the building that we are respecting, but at the same time they are preserving the ground, and they are preserving many of that, and therefore they are actually even on top of that, they are even coming back to the original contours, giving this public space its original borders. And thanks to the humanization of Magistrala, it is now, or it will be possible, to go from the Fanta building on foot, normally, through this whole place. You can go across it without having to dive underground. As I said, we had 27 members in the jury, each from a different expertise. There were 11 architects and then other experts. And yet, we managed almost unanimously to agree on the winner. We were evaluating several aspects according to criteria which were given beforehand. As you can see, there is a large margin the winning team won by a large margin. Actually, there was a lot of discussion about the second and the third place, but there was no doubt as to the winner. So I would like, therefore, now also to thank my colleagues from the jury. I would like to thank them for fruitful debate and for their patience, because we had to meet several dozens of times, and I would also like now to thank you for your attention, and now I would pass the floor to the authors of the winning proposal.
Tak já mnohokrát děkuji za...
Thank you. Thank you for the original the introductory presentations, which were presenting the course of the competition, of the competitive dialogue. Thank you also for the questions you are sending to slido.com. There is a host of them already, and in case we already answered some of them right now, we are trying to respond these also in a written form, but then again you will have the chance to ask during the panel discussion, during the Q&A session. If you have additional questions, you can keep asking. Now let us look at the winning design by Henning Larsen and Rambol, and there is Jakob Kurek and Greta Tiedje who will present their design.
Reminding ourselves what we've been through the last 2 years. There's no doubt that where we are today is based upon a very thorough and a very ambitious design brief, evaluation about the city, and so on. So I would say the outcome, or you can say the design response, what we are showing here today is a thorough response to an architectural response to a great ambition and how to transform a mobility hub into the future. We are extremely proud, we are extremely privileged, and it's with great honor that we now are going to take this collaboration and working in Prague. It's a very, as an architect, it's a city that is very, very proud. It's very, very authentic, and it's very true to itself. It's full of craftsmanship, skills, and expertise and knowledge. So on that legacy, that is what we're carefully trying to extend into the future with our Scandinavian mindset, I would say. And this can only happen through a dialogue. There's been a dialogue already the last 2 years or so, but the dialogue, of course, that continues. We're just getting started. And when we look at the city, and we look at the station, when you look at real projects that makes an impact, they're the projects that think beyond the boundaries, beyond their doormat, that start to think about the wider neighborhood, the people who are walking on a daily basis, the people who have come there for the first time. What is the first impression that we like to give the visitors? Why would we like them to come back? What makes us proud? And so on. So we actually, of course, we're designing and expanding the station, but it's for the people. It's for us that we're designing it, or it's for you. Change is not always easy. We know that ourselves, but once the change has come, we think about why didn't we do that before or earlier. It's of course not a one-man band. There's a huge team behind this project, not only within Henning Larsen, but also with Rambøll in terms of structure, transportation, and so on. But also huge thanks to our local collaborators from A8000. Without this would not have been possible. Combining global expertise with local knowledge, that's a really, really strong collaboration, I would say. It's much more than a station. There's no doubt about that. Of course, we would like to bring, you can say, the future mobility in the heart of things. We want to get out of the cars, use public transportation, connect Prague to the wider Europe and even beyond. But in the daily life, a station is much more than that. It's also about creating memories, lifetime memories, when we're saying goodbye to a family member that is leaving us or one that is coming back. So understanding what a station is, it really consists of a lot of elements that is related to a city in itself. It's about creating a destination, a gateway It's about thinking about how can we optimize mobility so it looks into the future. But it's also about creating meeting places, indoor, outdoor, celebrating the seasons as we know it. This is what we're trying to unify, all these ambitions under one big roof that carefully celebrates 2 decades or 2 architectural strong periods by the Art Nouveau or the Brutalism periods. But actually we want to bring it out to the daylight. We want to connect it, reconnect the mobility, reconnect the station to the city. And as such, we want to celebrate the eras and also extend beyond the doormat so it becomes a greater part of the city, a larger integration, no matter whether you are commuting or you simply, it's just because it's the best place to meet in the city. So we're proposing a very lightweight structure that opens up indoor, outdoor, and connects at all levels throughout. It's about visibility, mentally, but also physically. So when we talk about these ambitions before, it is about celebrating the praise through the seasons. It's about creating landscape, hardscape, softscape, for recreation, for activation, and so on. It is about creating a memorable space, no matter whether you're outdoor or you're indoor, but also integrating future mobility with the trams, bicycles, buses, metros, and trains, and so on, so it is really becoming a true meeting place. And with this, I would like to hand over to you, Greta.
Thank you. This is the station area as we see it today. We see a huge potential in it, which also means that we see some issues. Some people before today already explained some of the issues. We have really analyzed the place in the first stage of the competition, and we could see a lot of borders between the park, the terminal hall, and the existing historic Fanta station. These borders we are aiming to break down and reconnect the station area with its city, with Prague. We see this and we call this a mobility park of the future, which is not only about running through, but also a place we want to stay. This area station has been a fortification area before. It has been the green belt with a fortification around the historic city center of Prague. This area transformed into the station area, first with the Franz Josef station, which was located directly here on the historic city edge. It was back then actually connected, it was back then connected with the park, which was a really pleasant space. It was a space for leisure, for recreational purpose. It was the place where you went with your family and strolled around, had an ice cream, and enjoyed that park. Also, the Franz Josef station and the new Fanta station later were actually really active buildings. It was a smaller road back then, and you parked here, you could go in and out, and had a really active, lively frontage. It was part of Prague. It was part of the everyday life. Also here we can see already the fantastic trees which arrived from that time. The area got transformed, as we heard, many times, and the last larger transformation came by establishing the Magistrala. The Magistrala is probably why we have a lot of the issues which we're facing today. It was really disconnecting the station area from its surrounding. Also with the extension of the terminal hall, we can see that these borders kind of created an even bigger disconnection to its city and to its environment. Looking at the terminal hall, we can also see all the craftsmanship in there. And we love and we are inspired by this fantastic detailing and choice of materials, particular design from that time. So what's next? We try to focus on the bigger lines first, which are really about connecting the main train station with the historic city center. The other direction from the north-south is not least important, and we worked a lot with connecting the Meswerk station together with the entire cultural area. So these were kind of the parameters we drawn up first. When you look at this drawing from today's station, you can see that you have the Fanta building with the trains, you have the bus stations, you have the metro station in the underground, and the future tram station really disconnected from each other. We are working with preserving, we are working with extending some of the existing, and we are working with adding a new collective roof. And this allows us to actually span out and reach out, connect all the different modes of mobility, the tram station, the metro station, the bus and kiss and ride, and even the connectivity to the trains under one collective roof. From the beginning, our vision has been to create a holistic vision here, to not think about landscape, architecture and urbanism as three different silos, but think about the people which flow through the nature and the station as one project. We focused from the beginning on 3 strategies, which we refined throughout the process. We thought to create this mobility park of the future, we need to develop a strategy which takes care of safety. It's important to create a safe space where the people in their everyday life feel safe, but where also transportation can work in a safe manner. We worked with mobility, not only about seamless mobility, but also with future mobility, focusing on enhancing sustainable modes of traffic. We also worked with last mile connectivity, and my colleagues will tell much more about this in detail later. Heritage, we had a really, really clear vision to preserve as much as we can as the first thing. The next step is to extend what we have and actually draw from the qualities which are there. And then last but not least, we are adding a new layer on top, a layer which is of course designed according to future needs, and we're trying to reduce as much carbon as we can here on site. From invisible places to an inviting gateway of Prague. From disorientation and really an introvert feeling to overviewable and intuitive wayfinding. From closed edge zones, as for example here, the Bolzanova garage, which is actually lying underneath the Magistrala, and not a lot of people know about it. It's empty since many years. To vibrant and active cityscapes, which create a safety feeling, but also give a liveliness and influence the park in a very positive way. From obstacles and borders like bushes, to seamless flow and overviewable wayfinding. From a disconnected park to an inviting arrival square and of course destination. From an introvert station, as we found it from the beginning, to something which opens up to its city in a very generous way and welcomes the citizens of Prague, not only in their everyday life, but also when they go out on larger journeys to Hamburg, to Munich, and so forth. I will actually give the word now to our landscape architect daughter, who will present the landscape part, and after that, Mikkel will go more in detail on the architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. As Greta said, it's looking back in history. The park used to be a super popular and loved park where people of Prague would come to have a stroll, to meet with your family, to have an ice cream, to feed the dogs in the big pond in front of the station. It was also where the first trees were planted that we still see in the park today. And also we see a beautiful shaping of the park. And then with the train station and the terminal hall coming in, the park kind of like lost its meaning. It became a place you just like flow through really quickly. It's not a place you want to stay. As different problems appears, it got not so well maintained. It looks a bit sad. It's difficult to see other people. The visibility is kind of gone. And this is where it becomes the Sherwood forest, as you call it. So what was important for us again was to connect. First, connect the Fanta building, the terminal hall, and the city center, but also to connect all the way up to the Narodny Museum and to the Vrchlického station. Next thing is to think about the park and the terminal hall as one thing, not as a station and a park, but actually integrate the station and the park together. So bring in the park to the station, but also bring the station out into the park. Because this is amazing, that you actually arrive in your city into a park. You don't see that many places, but here we have the possibility of doing something extraordinary. And then it's also about activating the park and bringing it back to Prague and really give the local people a feeling of a destination, a place you want to come and visit and hang out and be. So we divided it into 3 different zones. The active zone, which is more for the local people, the station plaza, which is this arrival place, and then the cultural zone linking up to the cultural institutions in the south. And here you see the new park. And for us, it was both about being inspired by the history, by the organic shapes, by the beautiful trees that were planted at that time. It was also about bringing back the water feature and place it on the arrival plaza. Then we were very inspired by the newly renovated park around the Narodny Museum, which is really beautifully done. So what we do is that we take this cobblestone peacock pavement and bring it all the way into our park. So we really connect these 2 parks to each other. We also bring the furniture, the way of planting into the park, so it becomes like a big green stripe in the city. And then, of course, we really love the elements of the terminal hall, the pavement, the curves, so many beautiful details that we wanted to bring it out into the plaza and celebrate it. So it's where you are meeting Prague and where you are invited to the city footstep and continuing your journey. And then the trees are very important for us. It's the character of the place. They have these beautiful pagoda trees. When renovating this park and bringing in the tram, we will have to take a lot of trees down, unfortunately. But we are replacing them with the same amount of trees. And again, keeping up this character of the park, because it is so beautiful. And then it's important for us to really clear the bushes and create visibility throughout the park, not only for the tram people, so they can see other people coming in the park and don't hit them, but it's also for you to see each other, because that makes a safe park and a safe space. And then we reintroduce another layer of vegetation, which is lower, and which really bring in the seasonal aspects of the year. And it's also how we use the plant beds for water treatment. In case of heavy rainburst, we can lead the water all the way into the plant beds and hold the water until there's room enough again in the sewer system. Bam, and now it stopped. There. So, Here we see the park, the new pavement, the peacock cobblestone pavement, the new elements of vegetation, and how you can actually overview most of the park, and different activities are being spelled out, which I will walk you through in a moment. And then also keeping, of course, the monuments of the park, both the historical parts, but also the monuments that we see from the brutalist period, because they also hold a big history and a big sense of beauty. And then walking you through the park, I need a glass of water. Here you see the station plaza. Again, what you experience today coming out of the station is a little bit, you're getting disorientated. Where should I go? How do I proceed with my journey throughout Prague? And when you come to Oblatova Street, you meet a massive barrier of parked cars and a road. And then again, coming from this city and entering into the station, it's again really a barrier to go through. So we are opening up, we are taking away a lot of the car parks and allocating them, narrowing down the street, and really making sure that the pedestrians can come safely across Oblatova Street. And then making this arrival plaza where it's possible for you to wait for your family or for the train to come, park your bike, and really enjoy this beautiful big plaza. But also taking the striped pavement again all the way up to Vilsanova Street and connected to the Fanta building. And here you see the situation of coming from Vilsanova Street and arriving to the city, and it's actually possible right now to see where you are and where to go. The active part in the north is kind of like this local park. It's where you go on Sundays for the picnic. We are refurbishing the playground. There will be an area for dog walking. There will be a skate park. The Bolsanova garage up here, what Greta told us about, is being activated again, so there will be shops and bicycles repairment. Yeah, and it's really a place to visit and enjoy and be active in most of the day. Yeah, and here you see the Bolsanova garage, which is being transformed, and also making sure that the massive flow coming from the train station onto Masaryk station is provided and easy. Wrong way. And here again, the transformation. The utility lawn, which is there today, we are keeping it. It's a nice place to hang out. But there's also a lot of more activities going on in the park. And then last but not least, the cultural part, which is more like a regional area where all of Prague is invited in. It's an unprogrammed space, you could say, where everything can happen. We are placing a pavilion up here, so it's possible to have a concert and different activities. It could be a Christmas market, it could be a flea market, it could be a community dinner. Anything could happen here. And here we see the winter situation, where you put up the small Christmas shops. There's a bonfire and there's maybe music playing over here. So it's going to be this lively place that you can walk through and into the station. And here you see how the park is like continuing under the roof and celebrating the situation. And now I think Mikkel will continue.
Can you hear me? Yes, there we go. Of course, when we design such a big mobility park for the future, it's super important how we design for different modes of mobility. We like to work with these pyramids where we say we need most from the top, where it's widest, and least from the bottom. So of course we've designed this with the pedestrians in mind as the first thing. So really making sure that there are the routes that are required through the park, but also inside the terminal, cleaning up the mess of the historical layers and making sure that there's enough room to have the flow of pedestrian coming through here. Then next is about enhancing the journey for bicycles. There's a bigger plan of transforming Prague into a more bicycle-friendly city, and we are tapping into the bicycle plan there and ensuring that it's easy to get access and get close to the station with your bike, and there's great opportunities for parking, both the long-term indoor bike parking, but also short-term close to the places where you arrive. Then we look at the public transportation, where, it was mentioned earlier, we are designing, of course, the tram will be easy accessible. It's under the roof. It's protected from the weather. And then you have the bus stations that can also drop off below the roof up on Magistrale. And then as well, we provide kiss and ride facilities for taxis, Ubers, and shared car systems. And then in the bottom, we have the private cars, where, of course, we still need to have cars going to the site, but it will really be minimized as much as possible. So we are cleaning up a lot of the parking, which is on the Oblatova Street, but ensuring that there's still enough parking for the residents that live there. And then we are working with the Bolsa Nova garage as a parking facility that could be used in the future, but it could also be transformed over time to the retail that we just saw some images of, or for more like a mobility hub of the future where you have shared car systems and charging for electric vehicles and so on. So that was the mobility. Now we will go back and talk a little bit more about the architecture and the inspiration for the design. So of course, when we approached the site, we immediately saw a lot of qualities and it was a combination of the existing terminal hall that has this fantastic design language with the iconic curved shapes, the stripes, and then of course also the Fantova building, which is a bit hidden today. But it also has a really beautiful, both in exterior but also interior, with the arches, the dome shapes, and also the wooden details there. And then of course the park, which has been mentioned several times already. So we started investigating and looking into the layers of time. What is there? What should we keep? And then we worked from there to define a heritage approach, which Grete already mentioned a little bit earlier, but where we try to really preserve as much as we can in the terminal, but still we need to do the move of reducing or removing the facade and the roof to allow people in and get the views. But besides that, we really want to preserve as much as this as we can. Then we repurpose and extend and even drag elements from the design into the park and into Magistrale. And then finally we add on the large generous roof. And here we see it a little bit more in detail. So we preserve a lot on the side wings of the existing terminal. We want to preserve all the fantastic glass domes. Two of them are moving further out on the plaza. The two on Magistrale are moving out on the further ends of the park, so they greet people when you arrive at the site, and two stay in place. And then, of course, there are elements here, which are these iconic round columns in the facade, which we also want to keep. Then inside, we need to clean up a little bit and make more room for the future passengers. So next step is then cleaning up the interior, making the retail a little bit smaller to ensure that we can have flow coming through here, extending the terminal to the sides and open up so people can flow through fluently from the sides as well. And then adding a new facade here, where today there's these iconic double columns, and we use that to create a new facade, so we still have a large heated interior area here. Then we extend also up on Magistrale. We provide the large stair there in the center, which is not only for flow, but it also becomes this iconic meeting space where everyone can sit and enjoy the views to the park, and it becomes a place where you can meet under the large skylight. And then, yeah, I should mention also the ledges that we design here on the sides where people can sit and we can have a lot of activation around the retail of the station. So it's also a place you want to stay at and enjoy. And then lastly, the roof on top. So the elements that we've been looking at is, of course, the tiles, the stripes, but also the glass elements and the amazing facades and the use of metal, which is super iconic in in the terminal from the 70s. And we take those elements and we use them when we design new elements. So if we do a bench or we do bicycle parking or water pond, it has the same shapes and the same materials as the existing terminal. And here you see how we add this new facade in between the double columns that will have a stainless steel finish in the future. And we imagine this facade would be amazing to have open a lot of the year when the weather allows for it, but it can also be closed in the winter and in the cold seasons as we are in now. And inside, we remove some of the additions from the 90s, and then we make smaller retail, and we really try to do everything in the original language, but also still providing plenty of seating areas and waiting areas for the passengers. So here you see the floor plans, where up on the Magistrale you see the kiss and ride that allows buses to come in below the roof. We have some retail pavilions up here that are going to have absolutely incredible views to the city and the park, and make sure that there's always active life up here 24/7. As we come down further in the station to level -1, it's really connected to the landscape here. This is where people are going to be flowing from the Bolsa Nova garage and straight in to the middle level and can go straight over to the trains from there. You can also see how we are providing a lot of seating, both inside and outside in the retail units, where people can sit and wait while they enjoy a coffee or a snack or similar. And then as we get to the lower floor, here, because we were moving the ramps and so on, we can actually extend the retail to the sides, allowing for more retail. So this could be where you have your supermarket or your billa in the future. And then cleaning up again and making sure that there's room here for people to flow fluently through the station. And you have the tram platform integrated into that there. Yeah, so the flow has been a major focus here. You can see how now you can flow seamlessly through the station on these levels. And this is something we have worked intensively together with Ramble also to simulate how this actually works in the future, where we're expecting this at least doubling of capacity. The retail is also part of the activation strategy. So we have worked with like how can we integrate different types of retail into this. And as I mentioned earlier, we think the ledges or the side wings here where we have these outdoor terraces will be a great place to sit and enjoy a coffee or have restaurants in the future. As we come further into the middle level here, where you have the underpasses to the train stations and people really are flowing through, that's where you have your quick retail with shops, and you can grab a coffee or a newspaper on the way to your train. And then on the lower level is really where we can have the larger convenience stores, supermarkets, shops, and etc. And then in the back there, we still gonna keep tickets, public services, and those types of functions. But it is really part of the safety strategy as well to make sure that everyone can see each other in this layout, and it's super transparent, so you don't ever feel like you're in a corner that doesn't feel safe, basically. We've also really tried to optimize the design as much as possible in terms of material use, energy, low carbon design, and so on. And again, we like to work with these triangles. So this is the design optimization triangle, where you have materials on one side and energy on the other. And in the bottom, it's all about reducing. You know, only expand where necessary, transform as much of the existing as you can, integrate a low emission mobility strategy, as I talked about, reducing the indoor areas, and of course there should be enough and sufficient indoor areas, but the less we can have, the less we need to heat, and it's good for the energy as well. And then the middle part is about optimizing. So we really try on the material side to use timber where possible, and of course it's both a choice because it matches the park, it matches the Fanta building, but it's also the sustainable choice as it is material for the future with a low carbon impact. And then on the energy side, it's about providing shade, optimizing for daylight, and then on top, on the pyramid, we have reduce, where we add photovoltaics to the roof, so we can also produce energy from this amazing new roof. So you see here how there is a facade. there, and this of course will be outdoor, but still the roof helps to temper the space in the summer, so it's not going to be overheated, and it also shields from the wind in the winter, so it will be less cold here, and you will have some sun coming through than in other places of the exterior area. But then we have the facade there, and then we have waiting areas both here and on this floor as well. So going to the Bolsa Nova garage, which was mentioned earlier, as I said, it could be used as a parking facility when there's a need for it, but then in the future, the lower floor could be transformed with the retail that could front the park. We provide also sort of a bike parking hub there with the repair shops and so on, and shared bike systems. And then in the future, the upper floor there could be this shared car mobility hub with charging stations and so on. So talking a little bit about the roof and the design of that, it has been a major focus, of course, because how do you design something that not only is unique and spectacular, but it also really talks to the history of the elements that we are surrounded by here. So it needs to talk to the Fantova building, the terminal, and the park at the same time. And you can say the approach was to be inspired by all three elements. So the brutalism, the curves, the striped paving, the Art Nouveau with the arches, the dome, and then the tree crowns of the park. And sort of fusioning all of that into one design language, we made the roof as it looks here. And you see here how it looks in different situations and in different areas of the station. We believe we have achieved something here that, especially when you look with the heritage terminal here below, it talks in the same language with the curves and with the sort of organic approach, but it also has this sort of brutalist boldness, which we also know from the existing station. The roof is a glulam timber system, fully in timber, which can be sort of prefabricated, so it's pretty easy, fairly easy to assemble on site. And then on top you have this lightweight ETFE membrane, which is sort of a plastic-based ETFE material that makes sure that you don't get rain or snow or anything below this roof. And that's a look from above. And of course you have this skylight dome in the middle there, which is quite spectacular. It's also made of ETFE, but then you inflate it so it becomes like a cushion, which means we can have it without any visible structure in it. So you will have an amazing look to the sky through this skylight. Yeah. Then we have a little animation we would like to play as the last thing. Thank you. Thank you.
So I would like to thank you very much. Thank you for the preparation for the draft. I would like to ask my colleagues to, because we will start with a discussion. So we need chairs. Can we have, before, I would like to invite representatives of the team. and also the speaker whom you could see, Peter Hofhansel, if he's still here. I hope you still have time. Thank you. Jakob Hendrich, project manager for the Office of Public Area, and also for April. He is helping building up chairs here. So please stay with us. Mr. Vertic, Mr. Hofhansel, please join us too. And I would also like to invite Philip Jiřík for the Prague public transportation, so that we can also talk about the tram track, which is also an important topic. And it's a topic we should also react on. And please also representatives of the team to come to the front, please. Perfect. In the first row, there's also Dan Hluba from Správa železnic. If there are any questions, thanks for taking your time. Thank you for being with us, that you watched the whole presentation. Thank you for following us online. Thank you for the questions being posed. I will also post these questions, but if you would like to top some questions, if you like them, you can give points to them, and then I will ask these questions first, because these seem to be topics that might be important for you. So, and maybe I already replied to some questions, so please read them, or maybe you can also add something to the question. But here, when you are present here and you would like to pose a question, then raise your hand and wait for the microphone. If you pose your question in English, there's no problem. If you ask in Czech, please ask a bit of patience, because we will interpret the questions, so there will be a bit of décalage. So there is a language barrier, so please try to be very clear with your question, so we can also interpret and translate the question. As I mentioned it, thank you for being with us. And now I would like to open the floor for our first question, because I think there will be numerous questions being asked, and hopefully we will be able to reply to all questions. So if you have any questions, you now have the chance to raise your hand and ask. So I will ask first, because that's a topic that we hear repeatedly. The draft, the concept, came with a wooden construction, and we could see that the timber construction is inspired by what we also find in front of a building. Is such a wooden construction suitable for the center of Prague, to the center regarding the old production? How did you find that inspiration? Why should it accompany the traveler while he's approaching the railway station? So how did you come up with the idea to use timber and wood?
First of all, thank you very much for the question. It's a very relevant one. The choice of wood is inspired by many parameters. First of all, we have seen amazing timber structures in the Czech Republic. It's actually a local building material which you harvest in your own country, or at least in the neighboring country of Austria and the southern part of Germany. So in that sense, it was making sense already. Of course, when we build new, we try to reduce the carbon as much as possible, and timber is one of these materials which we can use for larger structures. We are building on top of existing foundations here, where we need to choose materials which are as light as possible. But also we can see that historic Maverick Station, for example, has a timber tradition, and you can see the roof spanning actually in a timber structure. So we thought it was very relevant, and we can see it in historic train stations being used because of these large spans. So we think it has a really rooted connection to Prague and also to the site directly.
Děkuju.
Thank you for the question. A question that we could read on Slido on the top on the page is: Správa železnic ready to limit the commercial areas so it could fulfill primary functions of the stations? We are talking about closed areas that we can see in the first design. It's the part of with the iconic design that is behind the glass entrance and separates us from the outside area. So is Sprawa Železnic ready to limit this area for the main functions of the main station? And if yes, why could we not only already limit it today? Because the main area is mainly filled with commercial areas. If we are ready to limit it, we are ready to limit commercial areas. It's not our main goal of Sprawa Železnic to have commercial areas on the railway station, but our goal is to fulfill the functions of a railway station. So people can comfortably travel and it's safe and there's a lot of light. So yes, I confirm that our goal is not to maximize commercial areas. That has maybe the goal for Grande Stazione in the past, not for us. So we will not do it. But we need a complex draft. We cannot just start, remove some constructions, but we need a project that is solving all the connections to get to the train, to the tram, etc., the park. And once we know the result, the final, well, the solutions that have been made for that, then we can also talk about the commercial areas. Thank you. I would like to open the space for you. Perfect. I will ask my colleague with the microphone to approach you. It's another. So ladies first. Thank you. Good evening, or good afternoon. Hi. Good evening. Thank you. I would like, Veronika Vichertova, I am a member of the Club for the Old City of Prague, and I have two questions. I would ask, first of all, to what extent is it ecological if we remove so many meters of metal construction to produce and create a wooden new construction, which is maybe as big or has the same size? That would be the first question. And the second question, if you think that this draft is adequate, that the new terminal hall, same as Fantowa building, is a protected heritage. And it's also in the Prague heritage area. Did the architects know about it when they prepared this project? Thank you. Thank you. I would like to ask first that the competitive dialogue representative could react. So maybe what was part of the task and what position we took regarding the heritage, not just the buildings and the protective areas, but also regarding some details. So maybe Jakub could start. When we opened the dialogue, competitive dialogue, then the entrance hall was not a heritage site, culture. And the question was just developed during the competitive dialogue, and the participants in the whole process have been informed about it, that they knew what kind of area it is, if it's that it's a Prague heritage area, or if the building as such has some valuable elements, and that we should also have a certain relation to Fantowa building, that it is a cultural heritage. And all teams were searching for the right approach, how to solve that, and also how to develop it. Thank you, Mr. Vertek. I would like to add something to the environmental aspect. Maybe you noticed that the interior has been reduced, so that will be an area which has to be artificially heated or cleaned, etc. So that's something that we respected. Now there's another question to the team. What approach did you choose to that cultural heritage and heritage protection? What did it mean to you, and what position do you take to that topic? And if it's about ecology and sustainability, if it's about removing the current part and building part and building something new which has maybe a similar size and is made out of timber or wood.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for that question, because it is very important and very difficult to understand. We at Henning Larsen, we are actually working on sustainability since a very long time, and we have a very broad field of sustainability here. The largest impact you can do is to actually push green mobility forward. This is a station which is visited today by 70,000 people minimum, and in the future 200,000. That means that this is where we can make the largest impact, to make a safe, joyful, and a fantastic experience, easy experience for the people to travel through here. So this is where we will save most carbon, if you would calculate this. Then when we look at the heritage, and we work with this station, and we want to preserve as much as we can from the existing terminal hall, but of course also outsourcing the Fanta building as much as possible. And in that way, it is a smaller carbon footprint which we are going to invest into the new structure, which is bio-based material as much as possible. So that is the answer to that, and that is going to make the big change in this specific location we are talking about.
In terms of the materiality, we have on many of our previous projects, there has been a goal that is nothing leaves the site. So whenever we are demolishing small bits or larger bits, we are also replacing it elsewhere or using it as a part of, building the new thing. So again, I think here we can also talk about an overall strategy that nothing leaves the site.
Děkuji. Další dotaz, který se vlastně...
Further question that is being repeated from the moment when we presented the winner. It's about bad weather conditions. If it's going to rain, snow, if there's going to be strong wind, for example, of course we can imagine what happens under the roof. But what approach did you choose? What should the visitor expect? And where can you take the idea to open this area and to actually minimize the area that is now with a roof? So maybe could you explain this approach that we chose?
We're sorry if our project hasn't been clear in terms of what is outside as what is inside. First of all, fresh air doesn't harm anyone, not even from Prague or from Copenhagen. But having said that, whenever we're proposing a design, we have been carefully simulating the microclimate in terms of wind, sun, shade. All the season we are carefully simulating that to make sure that we have the lee where we want it and where we have a fresh wind where we want to have that. And at the same time, we have been whenever we're proposing outdoor shelter space, that is where it makes sense from its orientation north, south, east, west. And overall, we haven't reduced the amount of indoor space compared to what is there today. We have actually been extending the usable area because we want to improve the commuter experience from that aspect.
Děkuji. Já myslím, že dotaz byl tady ve druhé.
Thank you. And we could see a question, or somebody would like to pose a question in the second line. Hi, Daniel Kutola. And I would like to pose a question to the hall that is now closed and to the new hall that is going to be larger, and due to that wooden construction, to what percentage approximately, if you compare it, the area of the future reduced area to the area through the hall today, is it just 2/3 that will stay or 80%? Thank you for that question.
I give that further to Mikkel.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Of course, it can look like we are removing half of the indoor area, but we are actually, because we are extending the station towards the side, and also cleaning up the interior and providing more public space than the retail space, we are not reducing the area. There's roughly around 9,000 square meters of public accessible space today, and in the future there will be, and that's indoor area, In the future, there will be around 7,500 square meters of public accessible space, which is indoor. But then on top of that, you get around 8,500 square meters of covered and protected space, which are outdoor. Yeah, so I think that answers the question.
Děkuji.
Thank you. And I will give space to someone else. Does anybody want to react? No. So are there other questions? Please wait for the microphone.
Dobrý den.
Dobrý deň, Martin Žaromícky.
My name is Martin Žaromícky. Good afternoon. I would like first of all to thank the authors of the design. I would like to thank them because they were trying to make sure there will be smooth transition between individual modes of transport. And then my question, revitalization of the Sherwood Park. Did you think about adding water elements or something that could be reminiscent of the original park? And second question, Sherwood today is infamous for the people you find there. What are your expectations? What would be the result of the change that you propose? The roof is wonderful because it will make it really comfortable to simply change modes, but maybe it will also be too comfortable for certain types of people. And another thing, the number of passengers will likely double, and maybe it seems like you will have a smaller space for waiting. I presume you can also enter from the Fantova building. Is the Fanta building also basically be like a place for waiting? Will there also be waiting room there basically? Or what is going, yeah, if you can address that. Mr. Vertik, maybe you will try to answer. Well, I would like to go back to what I said at the beginning. We were trying to find a harmonious solution from all of the aspects that I mentioned, but I didn't mention also the landscape qualities. At the beginning, it was clear that the problem of the park was its unclear identity. You still have something like an English garden there, which used to be there, but that is no longer functional because of the huge amounts of people. That's why you can't have an English garden there anymore. That's why anything like that would always be destined to failure. The winning design basically came with a solution where they make more room for pedestrian flow. They made a piazzetta there, an open public space, where people are flowing, and then it is surrounded by a public space with large portions of greenery, but you don't have to necessarily perceive it as a park. It's a fusion between a park and a square, so I just wanted to clarify this. Thank you. Now, the team members, if they can address the questions and the link to the original park with the water elements, etc. Is it going to help us tackle biodiversity issues and combating climate change and climate change adaptations, etc.?
Well, we are bringing back the water element to the park, to the plaza, not in the same way as we saw it in the old days, but it will be here. We are, of course, working with biodiversity, but this is going to be a park which has a lot of people coming and going. So there will be a huge amount of, like, what do you call that? Yeah, it will be used. So where we can make place for birds and for bees and for nature, we will do that. But it's also a park where people should enjoy and where the visibility is super important. So it's actually also inspired by the English park of bringing back the flowers and the moods and so on. So it's a fusion between the old park, but also a park which is a transit environment. And it's also, again, bringing back the local feeling of a park where you can actually spend your time.
Děkuji. A ještě je tam dotaz, který vlastně zazněl teď.
Thank you. And there was also one question regarding the socially pathological issues, the Sherwood aspects, that you feel that it's not very safe, you don't want to spend time there. There are many problems that we were unable to tackle on a long-term basis. What is the link between these phenomena and the quality of a public space, and what did it mean for you? Was this a motivation for you to change something, or maybe it was you didn't find there anything surprising?
Yeah, so of course we talk a lot about safety, and that is not only meant in a technical way, that is also about a safe feeling. We want people to feel safe here. And this is what Mikkel and Dorte both explained. We think that when you create a park for people as a destination and a station for people where you actually go and have your ice cream, we call it where you have ice on the street, where the edges along underneath the Magistrale, for example, are programmed, where you have little shops, where you have the bike parking and so on, you will feel more safe because people are there, working there, sitting there, playing, skating there, playing on the playground. So you are surrounded by people who are not just passing through, but you are surrounded by people of the neighborhood, by people who care about this place. And that is a very big part of the safety strategy along the edges in the park, but also throughout the station. And of course, transparency plays a huge role when it comes to vegetation, but also when it comes to the building, to eliminate these dark pockets underneath the big how do you call it, drive-ins on the side of the building, to create actually this connectivity from the park to the station. So you can hear we are not working with black or white solutions, not when it comes to heritage, not when it comes to safety. We are actually trying to connect programs. We are trying to connect people. We are trying to connect the landscape with the park, and we see that these are really good enablers of creating better places. So I hope it is a good answer, and feel free to ask more.
Jakube?
Já ještě doplním.
Jacob, well, I would add the following. We did realize that safety is a very important topic. And the sustainability of today's solution in terms of safety for the future, that's why we made the survey to find out which kind of people are moving there around, what are their expectations and feelings. So we have outputs from public participation, and at the same time we are aware that for the future this will still be a very important topic, because one thing is how you arrange the park and the place, how you build it, but then it is also about maintenance and care. That is one of the topics that will still be worked on in it will be a part of the architectural study, and it will be simply a huge topic: maintenance and care. Now Mr. Jiřík from the Prague Transit Company. You are one of the three contracting authorities, and basically your topic is the tram line from the Opera building, and it will connect to the Opletalova street, where there is already the existing tram track. The question is this: how important it is for the Prague tram line to build this small part of tram line. Is it really necessary to put the tram line there? Because there will be people, there is park. Why do we have this project there, which used to be there in the past and which we decided to remove?
Thank you for the question. Maybe I like to add something. When I arrived here, I came here from Nusle via Albertov. And in Albertov, there were some students who went on the tram, and they were talking about the new rail station. Hey, guys, did you hear that? They have some visions. It's going to be windy. There's going to be a higher roof, but the tram is going to be next to it. So it's not going to be that far from Bozanova Street. Wow. So the first thing is that it's not that far, like from Bozanova Station or from Jindřišská. But that's the major thing, I think. And the second thing is that the connection is short, but it's short, the short connection that is on both ends, and it connects to a big network. And that's a benefit in Prague, because the network of Prague public transportation is very developed in Prague, but in times when the metro has been introduced, then it has been negatively influenced that we now lack, actually. It doesn't mean that we should have trams on all streets, but if we can fill some gaps and create some connections, we can make sure that even relatively short travels or journeys can be done with less changes or within a shorter period of time. And that's why this tram is going to be very attractive, because the colleagues from the winning team found a solution where you can get to the tram on, let's say, dry feet, so to say, like without getting wet, for example. And then some buses that are being solved by Rapid are going to take different directions or goals than Metro C. So from the main station, you can always take the tram, or do not always need to get to the metro. And then after one or two stops from the metro, you will not have to go on a different tram, for example. One of the factors that motivate the people to use public transportation is because it's comfortable. And this will be an added value to the comfort. We are closely coming to the end, but Mr. Nestor, maybe can we discuss 10 minutes longer, because it's key questions. There's a question regarding the railways and the main station. When we comment the competitive dialogue, it's important to prepare the railway station for larger capacities, so that that there will be more transportation. There will be the Metro D line, high-speed trains. There will be trams. So there will be more people. There will be a larger movement of people. So, Mr. Hohansel, could you please comment? How do you create these capacities of 200,000 people? What do you mean? Where can we see the changes so it will be better for the process and the steps? And why is the current building not able to it? Why can it not adjust it? Why do we need these changes? As I said, we plan high-speed trains that should arrive to the main station. There should also be the new connection to Nové Spojení 2. That's new railways that should be created, that should also be reachable from there. And we also plan the strengthening of other trains. We also talk about an 8-track to the direction of Polska Street and Vinohrady. But what is a problem at the moment at the current railway station is that it's dark. We don't have a good overview, and in the lower part of the new terminal hall nowadays, in peak hours, it's coming to collisions. People don't find their directions. They actually, it's too many people there, so it's a capacity problem. So we need more space. We need more waiting areas, other shopping areas or commercial areas. We need to open it. We need to get a step forward. We need to get more space for to be able to walk through and to connect it with the surrounding area. And we need to get a better overview of that area. Now, I think I get convinced today that I was there. It can get difficult to get even lost. It's not that easy to get from Fantova building downstairs. So we would like to create more space and a better overview and more light there. Thank you. Another question from the public. Hi, welcome in camp. Hi, thank you. My name is Vrchlického. And I was quite surprised that in the competition, the topic was the reconstruction of the terminal hall. But is this a reconstruction or not? And here we could hear many comments that this keeps the most iconic moments of the new terminal hall. But it has been reduced, and we only keep the red part and the ground. But these two elements have been actually taken away from in the 1990s from Grande Stazione. And what is the most iconic is the metal construction, and that's the picture everybody has in its mind. So my question is, isn't it a mistake that there should also be a historical research to mention from what times what parts of the constructions are? Because we talk about what has a value, what is iconic here. And I'm just confused. So what do we actually give that added value to? I would like to forward this question to the organizers of the competitive dialogue. How did this discussion actually has been initiated? We had many experts, historians, architects, etc. So how did you formulate an opinion? What actually has value at the railway station? What should be kept? How did this formulation and actually discussion come up? And what kind of opinions did you hear in those discussions? When we prepared the task, we collected numerous documents, and we also had a historical research of the park and the hall, entrance hall, and the hall railway area. And simultaneously, we also had technical documents of the current state of the terminal hall. And we talked also as the committee, but as members and participants when they presented themselves and their approaches and drafts. We discussed how they react to the current status and the individual values. Every team read it and interpreted it in different ways and found different approaches to it. And this team that won today, or that won yesterday, but chose this approach that we don't even, let's say we don't really see it as an entrance terminal hall, because nowadays it's under the Magistrala, and we don't really see it's a building because it doesn't have a facade, it doesn't have windows, it doesn't have a real roof, so to say, because it's the Magistrala that's actually creating the roof. So this part is being kept, but actually it's returning it to the original solution, because in 2000, the reconstruction that has been made in the years 2006 to 2010 really changed this area. It created new retail areas that actually made these areas where people can wait for trains even smaller. So this opens the level, the mezzanine level, if you get into the respective areas and roads and paths that lead to the tracks. Regarding the heritage and the value, it's a picture of that part of the city, the original structures and areas and the role of the buildings, especially Fantova building. And in this context, if we eliminate, for example, the parking lot, that was something that was decisive. Thank you. I would like to give the space also to the winning team to this question, but maybe you could also react on the answers you have just heard from the other people here.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this question. We had luckily a long dialogue and we had exactly the same questions as you have, and we have discussed them really a lot throughout, because we have we really love those historic buildings on the site, not only the modernist one, but also the one, the Fanta building. And we have the park, which actually has an even longer legacy in the city of Prague, because it's actually one of the last green pieces of the fortification. So we actually really try to work with these 3 different periods of heritage, and really carefully. We also understand the value in the modernistic part, and we know the feeling of being afraid that history will be taken away here, and that's not in anybody's interest. But we think that we are challenged by a future. We need to adapt those places to be responsible and to be sustainable. And that doesn't mean that we should take things away, not at all. We should build further on them. And we went forth and back in studies and investigated how much of that roof do we need to take away. We also actually had other studies where we tried to keep some of the steel structure, which were unfortunately not very successful. But so we came to that conclusion of taking that roof away, or we actually have to say sometimes the parking deck, because it's more a parking deck than it is a roof. To take that away and take the facade away actually gave connections. You can actually see a lot of the existing here, which you could not see before. I don't know, of course this is a visualization, it's maybe difficult to see, but there is more revealed to the outside. You have a closer connection, and we are working with even taking some of these elements out into the public space, drawing them all the way down to the city and all the way to the Fanta building. So it's actually like a carpet inviting you in, and you get in touch with the design of that period already earlier in that project. So of course, this is a process, and we are super interested to hear your concerns, but we also think it is about fusing the future based on the past and finding out very delicate ways of how to work with that. It would be a pity if Prague became a museum where people cannot move and commute and be anymore, because all the buildings are protected, but there is no life in them anymore. So it is very much balance between what to keep and what to further develop. That's our...
Děkuji.
Thank you. Before I give space to a further question, I would like to ask Jakob Hendrich to comment on one thing. It's about the park, that in the park you can see some areas, and of course there are many people in the park, and when we presented the area, then Andrzej first described it that this park cannot actually face the many people coming here, so we have to take some of the green and maybe add or create more roads. So maybe that's a scenery, something similar we could see around the National Museum. How is it actually possible that in order to have a better result, maybe it's better to take something away from some grass or green area and add, for example, another value? So for example, it could be a tree or something. So maybe you can describe your thinking. If I simplify it, it's about the quality is important and not quantity. So if I also simplify it and we see the current perspective on the park, then now we have some green grass, that's all, some green grass area. It cannot be really used. And that was also what the public said, the participation said, so how could this area be actually used or developed? It's difficult because of its size to keep it in a certain state. And how could this be an added value for visitors of that park? But also regarding biodiversity and ecosystems. We focused on the teams to work on that the teams should work with that topic to come with different schemes, how to change this park, not just about how, it was also because of the activities and the numerous people coming there, but we would like it to be an area that would like to be, was supposed to be reached by many people. But it should also offer these ecosystems, but also services that we expect of a park, because it's one of the last green areas or leftovers, so to say, of the former fortress. And that's how we could see how the different teams deal with it, and we asked them to create an index to compare the different solutions regarding either green areas, grass areas, trees, all kinds of surface areas. We compared it with the current state, and the result was that all the three final drafts do something for the better of the quality of that area, but one could also see that the team that keeps more green areas in comparison to the winning teams is just connecting to the current state, but it keeps a lot of grass areas, and it could not create such a better situation. So that was also a way how we evaluated it and how this area can change. And I get back to what I said in the beginning, that it's about the quality of the solution, how the area can take in water, for example, and how we can have a certain biodiversity in the area and have a certain solution. Last question from Slido regarding the Magistral. So I will give more space to the room here if there are any other questions to any other topics that has been heard. So maybe it can also be an additional question, please, in the last row.
Good afternoon. Maybe actually that's the question that you have on Slido, and specifically about the pedestrian crossing at Magistrala. Are there going to be traffic lights, or how is this going to be controlled? And will there be a reason to go there actually when anyway you can't access train directly from Fantova building? So why should people go there? Well, yes, this is a question. Also, the questions regarding Magistrala are abundant also on Slido. We mentioned several times that there should be crossing in front of the Fanta building. At what stage is this decision now, and how is this going to impact the traffic on Magistrala? And in general, why is this not an opportunity to make Magistrala, to make something different from it? You know, like it was already decided that it will not go underground, but, you know, why can't we use this huge reconstruction in the site to make some, to transform significantly this Magistrala? Jakube? Well, I will start from the more general perspective. The Fanta building is dead today. From the construction of the new terminal hall, the building, the Fanta building, basically lost its purpose, and it had no use. No use for the public. It was used by the administration of railroads, etc., but basically for the travelers, there was no reason to go there, with the exception of the cafe. The railroad administration is trying to change this. As has been said, on Saturday, the northern part is going to be opened with new halls, and the Falta building should get new purpose. It should be open to the public. It should be attractive. There will be also conference facilities, and further development is envisaged in the southern part too. This, I think, will be a very important step in how you perceive this area, and also its relationship to the Magistrala, to the destination point, and the flow of people in the whole area. With regard to the train station itself, still you have track number 1 or platform number 1, which is accessible also directly from the Fanta building or from the terminal hall. So actually this improves the accessibility, and it improves the forecourt of Fanta building, the reconstruction of the ceiling slab where you have the Magistrala itself, hydro-isolation, insulation issues. It addresses all of that. Pedestrian walkways, adding lines of trees and the pedestrian crossing, which would be safe for people and which would minimize impact on the traffic flow through this area. The new train station, Nový Hlavák, is a piece in the mosaic that will that is more than the train station, and the individual parts of Magistrala are divided into separate projects. One of them is the forecourt of the Fanta building, another one is the Wenceslav Square section and the museum section up to the Politických vězňů Street, from the upper part of the tram track close to the museum. So you have all of these projects which are adjacent to this concept, and the principles which were defined by Gale architects. So it should be a high-capacity road, but basically it will be an urban street, not a highway type of road anymore. It should be a place where you feel comfortable, you can cross it, you can go along it, because there will be a walkway and lines of trees. There will be no railings, no barriers, no large traffic signs, and also the light poles should be adapted. There should be enough light at night, etc. Thank you. On behalf of the railroad administration, the staircase that you see there is very important because it brings life there. If you can't access a building, then really the building will be dead, nobody will come there, and it's hard to find any purpose. We are now completing a reconstruction of the northern part, which was very expensive. There will be 350 million crowns was involved, even more actually. The facilities inside are truly beautiful. And the reconstruction is really wonderful, and we do believe that the facilities will be used. There will also be waiting rooms, commerce. We want to renovate also the office space there. There will be shared office space. Soon we are about to embark to the next stage of the renovations. So for us it's really important to bring people there and to restore the original pedestrian link, and you can see it right behind me that this team did a wonderful job doing precisely that. You have a wide staircase and a wide, comfortable pedestrian crossing. That's a very comfortable solution. You get to the Fanta building, you get to platform number 1. From there you can also get to the underground passages, so the permeability is there. Thank you. Thank you. If I remember correctly, we actually added to the recommendations of the committee to restore the staircase that would bring you from the Fanta building precisely to have this pedestrian link, so that it's possible to go from taxi or from Kiss and Ride directly to the underground, so that you don't have to make some complicated route, etc. And that once you humanize Magistrala, then should also activate the ground floor of the Fanta building. All right, another question to Jakub and the team. This is the last question about what is ahead of us, because we are now at the end of the competition dialogue, but we only know the winning proposal. But now there will be a next stage, a lot of processes there, presentation to the public, which starts today, the further works on the study. Where are we now within the schedule, and what is ahead of us, Jakub? Yes, I will be very specific. On the 12th of December, there will be a commented tour through the exhibition here at Camp. Then on the 13th of December, there will be a meeting with locals from Nový Hlavák. That will be a part of the participation processes, where we will present the design to them and we will ask for feedback. There will be a competition here, an exhibition here at Camp until the end of the year. Another exhibition will be displayed at the train station. Then there will be a participation stand in the terminal hall, where again we will be collecting feedback. That will be in the early 2024. Then we will be collecting questionnaires. That will be an important output for the fine-tuning of the study, which will actually be in course for the rest of 2024, working with the outputs of the participation. It should also then respond to recommendations of the committee, and we will be collecting comments also from the contracting authorities and other stakeholders. Now I will give the floor to the team. We already had some participation as a part of the competition dialogue. Now it will be another stage of the participation with relation to the winning design. So Henning Larsen, if you want to respond to the next steps, the steps ahead of you.
We want to say thank you to the citizens of Prague. It's amazing how much you care about your city. I think it's super important. It's not only here on the side of the jury, it's on the client side, it's actually you guys out there. We are amazed to see how many people follow this process and bring your ideas and thoughts to the table. This is really healthy, and this is really healthy sign of a fantastic city and city community. So I think we want to say thank you for that, first of all, because that is really great to feel. We feel the ambition here. We feel that people really want to be part and take part on the form giving of their city. And so really, really impressive. And thank you for hosting all this, because we think it's the right way to do it, to have a dialogue from the beginning instead of a one-shot version. So we think this is the way to go. This is great, and yeah, that's from my side. Maybe Jakob, you want to add something?
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Dobře, já vás poprosím o potlesk.
And of course we are excited to move on and to hear your thoughts now in the next 3 months, and to work with your ideas, because we already had a fantastic dialogue before, but now it's you guys, and it's listening to what you have to say. Great, thank you. We are excited.
Tak teď vás poprosím o potlesk.
Now is the time for applause. Thank you very much. I would like to thank also to the institutions and the members of the winning team, the whole team which was presenting the design. Please follow us. We are adding information, and you can also follow our channels, where we will keep answering your questions and responding to your inputs. We are trying to select the most important ones, and we are trying to add the responses on a continual basis. We are open to any sort of questions from you. There are hundreds of comments already. So stay with us. Thank you to all of you. Have a nice evening, have a good night, and don't forget to look at the exhibition. Thank you.